Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 6 and Group 6 is Shabrina, Atikah, Sari, Muhammad Fajar, and I'm Putri, Ghaysani. The first material we will explain by Shabrina, Atikah, Sari.
Okay, thank you to Putri as a moderator to give me chance to explain about the calculate, rate, and the procedure, land and building title transfer data. Before I explain about the calculate, land and building title transfer data, I remind you that the meaning land and building title transfer data is the tax levy is tax levy to the land and building title transfer data. And the formula calculate land and building title transfer data. This is BPHTB equal tax rate times tax object acquisition value, or we call NPO-PKP, or we use the formula 5% times tax object acquisition value NPOP minus acquired value of non-taxable tax objects, or NPO-TKP. If the land and building title transfer data, it is the result of grant, inheritance, and give the BPHTB. The formula to be determine BPHTB payable is the 50% times 5% times NPO PKP. Okay, next I will explain about the tax object acquisition value, or we call NPOP. The tax object acquisition value, or NPOP, is it is to can the tax base to determine land and building transfer title transfer data. It can be transaction values. It can be transaction price, market values, and the tax object sales values, or we call NGOP PBB. That's for your gain. If the transaction price and the market values, the lower or unknown, so we determine the NGOP, land and building transfer title transfer data. We use the NGOP PBB to be NGOP the land and building title transfer data, or it can be the tax base for the land and building title transfer ability. Okay, there are two examples about to we determine value NPOP. The number one is the value transaction price more hike from the tax object sale values. So we determine the value NPOP, we use the value transaction price. And number two, the value transaction price more low from the tax object sale values. So we determine two values. NPOP is the value from the tax object and sale values. Okay, next, the tax rate from the land and building title transfer data. If this object is a maximum rate 5%. And next, accurate value of non-taxable, taxable, tax objects or recall and POP-TKP. The red set regional government is the 60 millions, and the most widely if the land and building title transfer duty from grain or inheritance received that is still in a family. If the red set regional government is the maximum 300 millions. And next, we determine value and NPOPKP. NPOPKP equal NPOP minus NPOPTKP. Okay, there are example to we determine the value from the NPOPKP, and the example number one is the no from I will explain about the for about example. I will to inform you about the if the value NPOP low from the NPOPTKP. So we can to determine we cannot to determine value NPOPKP. So it is to land and building title transfer duty. It's not payable. And if the value NPOP high from the NPOPTKP. So we can to determine to the land and building title transfer duty payable. And for the example number one is the value from NPOP low from the value NPOPTKP. So we cannot to determine value from the NPOP or land and building title transfer duty. And next, example number two. Example number two is the NPOP height. The value NPOP height from the NPOPTKP. So we can to determine value land and building title. Title transfer duty or value from NPOP NPOPKP. And next to we explain about the example calculate the value from the BPHTB. For the number one is the question to the there are a text object equation value or we call is the NGO PKP. So we determine to BPHTB. Before that, we determine to value NPOP and value NPOP PTKP and their value we minus and the sum is we call NPO PKP. And after that, we determine value BPHTB payable. It is to the 5% times to the BPHTB. 5% times to NPO value about the NPO PKP. So we must determine value NPO PKP from the text object sales values. After we after we to get the value text object and self values, so we must to determine and the transaction value. If the transaction value hide from the text object and self value, so the value transaction value we use to the. Okay, next example. This question to we must determine value NPOPKP and the question the land and building title transfer dati it is from his parents. So because from his parent for from gift from heritage it is to mas formula BPHTB equal 50% times 5% times BPHTB. Okay, when the BPHTB is payable is the one signed, the date and the deed was made and signed. Next, the date of the judge's dedication. Next, Next, I will explain to you about the procedure of for transfer of land and building rights. One, taxpayer manage the acquisition of land and building rights to PPAT. Next, the PPAT receive the documents and check the documents. Next, the head of the land office provide data for document. And next, PPAT prepares and save the draft. Next, after the PPAT prepare and save the draft, PPAT receive SSPD BPHTB from the regional management revenue and asset office. And next, PPAT calculates the BPHTB or the line of the land and building title transfer dati, prepare SSPD BPHTB. And the last, taxpayer and PPAT shall sign the SSPD BPHTB. Okay, next I explain about the SSPD BPHTB or Recall Land and Building title transfer dati payment bills consists of the six sheet with details. One sheet 1 for the taxpayer, for the receipt to the taxpayer, and to use to when the taxpayer pay the land and building titles the transfer dati payable. Next, sheet 2 for auction office. Next, sheet 3 for the office of defense as an attachment the application for registration. Sheet 4 for service function as attachment for land and building title transfer dati monitoring. Sheet 5 for the government treasurer. Sheet 6 for the bank as archive. Okay, this is to the example about the land and building title transfer dati payment bills. Okay, that's all about the explanation section presentation for me. Thank you for attention. Back to moderator. Thank you.
Okay, it's my turn to explain about payment and recording land and building title transfer duty or BPHTB. Please listen carefully. Land and building title transfer duty, or we call BPHTB payment. Deposit into the regional treasury account through a designated bank or in cash through the revenue treasurer. Taxpayer will get a regional tax payment letter or SPPD that has been filled out. BPHTB deposit letter is a letter used by the taxpayer to make payments or remittance of tax owed to the regional treasury or other places determined by the regional head, as well as to report data on the acquisition of land and or building rights. Okay, this is the picture of SPPD SPHTB. BPHTB payment procedures. The first is the taxpayer submits the SSPD BPHTB and paying the BPHTB out. The second, the destination bank or receipt treasurer checks the completeness of the SSPD BPHTB and the suitability of the amount owed by the BPHTB with the payment money received from the taxpayer. And then, the appointed bank or receiving treasurer signs the SSPD BPHTB. And the last, taxpayer can carry out the next process, namely the application for SSPD BPHTB research to the service function in DPP-KAD. Local tax deposit or SSPD research procedures is a process of verifying the completeness of documents and the truth of data related to tax objects listed in the SSPD BPHTB. The first procedure is taxpayer submit the research application form for SSPD BPHTB, SSPD BPHTB Sheet 4, and supporting documents to the service function. The second one is the service function then submits a request for data related to the tax object based on the SSPD BPHTB research application form received. Submission is done by filling out and submitting the data submission form to the data and information processing function. This is a picture of form pengajuan data or data submission form. The third of procedure is the data and information processing function pulls the record data from the tax object database system, then includes the tax object information on the data submission form, then submits it back to the service function. The fourth is the service function checks the correctness of the tax object data from the data and information processing function. Under certain conditions, DPP-KAD has the right to conduct field research to check the truth of the data in real terms. Next is, after all the correctness of the tax object information in SSPD BPHTB and the completeness of the supporting documents, the service function signs the SSPD BPHTB. The service function is to archive sheet 4 as documentation, then submit sheets 1 to 3 to the taxpayer. The last is taxpayer receive SSPD BPHTB from the service function. Procedures for registration of deed or transfer of rights to land and or buildings is a registration process for the acquisition or transfer of land ownership rights. It is carried out by the official making the land deed to the head of the land office. First step is preparation of the deed of sale and purchase of rights on land. BPAT must first check the office district or city land regarding the validity of the certificate of land rights concerned. The second is implementation. The making of the BPAT deed must be attended by parties who carry out legal action concerned or authorized person by him with a written power of attorney in accordance with the laws and regulations valid invitation. The third is registration of transfer of rights. Mandatory BPAT submit the BPAT deed and other documents required for the need for registration of transfer of rights on the land in question to district or city land office no later than 7 working days. And the last is the submission of certificates. The procedure for determining BPHTB is regulated in Article 11 and Article 12 as follows. Within 5 years since the tax is due, based on the result examination, there is an underpayment. The Directorate General of Tax in this case. And after the issuance of the SKBKB, there is new data again so that the tax is payable increase. Then the head of the PBB Service Office or KPP Pratama issues a letter of additional underpayment BPHTB or we call SKBKBT decision to sanction administration of 100% of the amount of the increase unless the taxpayer reports before any inspection. The procedure for collecting BPHTB is regulated in Article 13, Article 14, and Article 15 of the BPHTB law. Then if first, tax payable are not or underpaid. Second, from the examination SSB is underpaid. And third, taxpayers are subject to administrative sanction in the form of fines or interest. Then the Directorate General of Tax issues a billing letter of BPHTB or STB plus penalty of 2% interest per month for a maximum of 24 months. BPHTB billing letter is equivalent to a tax assessment letter, or we call SKP, SKBKB, SKBKBT, STB, SK correction, SK reduction, SK objection, or SK appeal is the basis for collection of tax. Tax payable based on the letter above must be repaid no later than 1 month from being received by the obligatory tax. Overdue can be billed with letter of force. Procedure for requesting a deduction. The application is submitted by the taxpayer to the Director General of Tax in Indonesia with attachment, photocopy of custom deposit letter, judge decision, identity, their certificate of lurah or village head, and merger approval from the Director General of Tax. Then application within 3 months from the date of payment. Especially for merger, the application is submitted before the date is set by the notary or PPAT. Upon request, a simple inspection is carried out and poured in the minutes. An application that don't meet the requirement are not considered as letter application and is not considered. Reduction decision. Decision by the head of KPP Pratama within 3 months since received the application from the taxpayer. More than 3 months is considered accept. Decision by the regional head of Director General of Tax within 4 months from receipt an application from taxpayer. More than 4 months is considered accept. And a decision by Director General of Tax within 6 months, more than 6 months remain accept. The second decision from grant a whole or part or difference. And third decision authority, stipulation, decree, and more than 5 billion. Like we can read stipulation up to 2.5 billion by the head of PBB office and decree above 2.5 billion to 5 billion by Kanwil and more than 5 billion the impact of the crisis, merger, and Bank Mandiri by the Director General Tax. And the last of my explanation is about BPHTB reporting. BPHTB reporting is a process carried out by the appointing bank or receipt treasurers in reporting the receipt of BPHTB payments from taxpayers. This procedure includes the reporting process carried out by the official making the land deed for its deed of transfer of rights that has been issued. This procedure involves a designated bank for receiving BPHTB payments from taxpayer who go through a deposit mechanism to the original cash receipt account. The next material will be explained by Muhammad Fajar.
Okay, we will talk about reduction. Taxpayer can apply for a reduction of tax, and the cost of reduction can vary among them. For example, individual taxpayers who obtain rights to land and or hospital, buildings, and RS directly from the developer and pay installments get 25% reduction. Land and buildings for social or educational purpose only, not looking for profit, gets a 50% reduction. And taxpayers whose tax objects are affected by the earthquake or natural disaster, and whose rights are occur when the debt occurred 3 months prior to the occurrence of the disaster, give a reduction of 100%. And then Personal taxpayer like veterans, servant, military, police, retirees, widow who has the right to land and or building or has government service get a reduction of 75%. Next is the procedure for requesting a reduction. The application must be submitted by taxpayer to head of KPBBP or KPP Pertama or Kakanwil or Directorate General of Taxation in Bahasa Indonesia with the attachment of photocopy of Surat Setoran Bea, photocopy of Akta, photocopy of identity, letter of statement from Lurah, photocopy of merger agreement from Directorate General of Taxation. Ensure the requestment is 3 months since the payment date, and only for merger only, requestments are submitted before the agreements are signed by BPHT. Upon request, a simple inspection is carried out to find out is it true or not, and the applications do not meet the requirements are not considered as reduction application later. Next is the reduction decision. Decisions are made by the head of KPPP or KPP Pertama in 3 months since the application form from the taxpayer is accepted. If 3 months has accepted, the application will be considered accepted. And the decision of Kakanwil DGP is in 4 months since the application from taxpayer is accepted. If 4 months has passed, the application will be considered accepted, and the decision of the Directorate General of Taxation is in 6 months has passed. If 6 months has passed, the application will be considered accepted. And the form of decision can be granting a whole, a part of, or can be refused by head of taxation. And the decision authority, decisions up to 2.5 million are made by head of PBB or KPP Pratama. Decisions from 2.5 million up to 5 million will be made by Kakanwil DGP, and more than 5 million or crisis impact or merger will be made by Directorate General of Taxation. Next is the sanctions. Based on Pasal 11 and Pasal 12, within 5 years from the tax payable, based on the results of the inspection, there is underpayment, Directorate General of Taxation, in this case, head of Kantor Pelayanan PBB or KPP Pratama, will issue a BPHTB decision letter insufficient payment or SKBKB, added with fine 2% per month, maximum for 24 months. And after SKBKB issued, there is new data again, so the tax payable increase. The head of Kantor Pelayanan PBB or KPP Pertama will issue a BPHTB decision letter additional insufficient payment or SKBKBT, added with administration fee fine for 100% from the additional increase, except the taxpayer reported before the inspection happens. And then the billing procedure of BPHTB is based on Pasal 13, Pasal 14, and Pasal 15 UU BPHTB. So if the tax is not paid or insufficient payment, for inspection insufficient payment, and taxpayer get administration sanction in the form of fine or interest. So Directorate General of Taxation will issue a bill of PHTB or STB added interest sanction of 2% per month, maximum 24 months. Thank you.
Okay guys, that's all of our explanation. We are sorry for any mistakes and thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.